Boys, I'm pushing 0 pounds of boost.
Ladies and gentlemen, today is the day that we install the coveted boost gauge onto my 99 Eclipse. Now, you guys know me. I don't like doing things the way other people do things. Even if it makes it kind of complicated, I still do them anyways because I'm kind of dumb. But today I'm going to show you guys how to not only wire up your boost gauge, but since I'm going to be putting on 2 other gauges, namely an oil pressure gauge and an air-to-fuel ratio gauge, I'm going to show you guys how to kind of wire them together, which makes it less complicated and easier to diagnose a problem in the long run. So without further ado, we're going to get started. So the gauges we're going to be installing are all by ProSport. This is the ProSport boost gauge. It's their digital series. I'm super pumped to throw it in. But first things first, we need to establish what we're doing. Now, I've said this before, I'll say it again. Before you do a project on your car, it's always a really good idea to kind of write out or draw out or whatever, kind of an outline of what you're about to do. So what you're about to witness is a terrible outline of what I'm about to do. I barely understand it, but I don't know, it helped me kind of figure out what I was doing. So this is my little diagram here. We're gonna have basically 3 connections. We're gonna have a battery connection, ground connection, and a connection to the remote. I'm gonna be using the remote wire that goes to the cigarette lighter, but we're going to be combining the wiring for all 3 gauges just to make things a little bit less complicated. I'm sorry if you are an electrician, this is probably disgusting. So I'm just gonna turn that around and there we go. So the first thing we're gonna do with this project is we're gonna start with the power connection. Why? It's just how I want to start it for now. So what we're gonna do is we're going to disconnect the battery first and foremost, because you always want to do that whenever you work on your car, because getting electrocuted isn't fun. I've never done it and I don't think I ever will, but I might eat those words later. But basically I'm gonna disconnect the battery. I'm going to establish a connection to the battery. Not gonna connect it just yet, but I'm gonna get it ready. And then we're gonna put an inline fuse just to, make things safer, I guess. Fires are bad. And then we're gonna run underneath the dash up to where the A pillar is and then connect it to all the power wires for the gauges. So cue the time lapse. That moment you tear up a perfectly good box and then you realize it's got a perforated edge so you can actually open it like a normal human being. So now all of the harnesses have power. Now we just gotta make them all share the same ground. And I think what I'm gonna do for that is I'm gonna use the same spot that I used for the fuel pump rewire, which is just underneath, sorry, the lighting is terrible down here. I'm gonna use the spot just underneath the steering wheel here. Bam! Also, I found this. I seem to find a lot of random stuff around my car. This wasn't even grounded right. It was just kind of wedged in there and has no connection. So, yeah. It's always fun when you're taking apart your car and you're wondering, where did this come from? Why is this here? Like, I've literally taken entire, clusters of wiring out of my car that go to nothing. They were just kind of shoved in wherever they were. It was good stuff. I also found a pill in my car once. Now all the gauges have a legitimate ground. Now, normally I would start to wire up the remote wire, because that's kind of what you do next, right? Well, I'm gonna hold off on that. I'm gonna install the sender now. Now, the ProSport boost gauge comes with a sender, and that just basically makes it to where you don't have to run a vacuum line all the way up into the cabin. Because that can make things complicated and can, be inaccurate. So we're going to wire that up next because the sender needs to be worked into the remote wire as well. And so I'm just going to hook it all up at the same time just to, keep things working normal in my brain. So here's the sender. First things first, you're going to want to find a good spot to put this. This has a nice spot where you can install a bolt or something. I'm gonna put it right here because on DSNs, the best place that I've seen and also read to install your boost line would be to come off of this line right here. It's coming off the fuel pressure regulator. So you're gonna wanna come off of this boost line.
So we're going to cut this, and that's where we're going to get our boost reading from. It's going to go to the sender, and then the sender has a wire that's going to go into the cabin and hook up with the gauge inside. The sender is now fully installed. So I just bolted it up right there. It's got the boost line going to the inline filter, integrated into the OEM boost line. Now this is my wiring setup. I went ahead and just grounded it right here just for convenience's sake. Now the white wire goes to the green wire for the boost gauge harness, and then the red is gonna go to the accessory wire, and I'm gonna show you guys how I'm gonna hook that up right now. Now, in our DSMs, there are two ways we can do this. Well, there's probably more than one way, but these are the two that I'm thinking of. So the first way is we can hook up the remote wire up to the cigarette lighter. Now, my cigarette lighter, I'm not even sure if it works, and the wires look really mangled. So what I'm going to do is, my radio harness happens to come with a remote control wire, which I am conveniently not using. Normally, you'd hook that up to an antenna or an amplifier or something. In this case, this is what we're going to use to turn on all of our gauges. Now, I just got to take the remote wire from all these harnesses and send them all down and connect them to the remote control wire here. One of the wires that's also going to be going into this control wire is going to be the wire from the sender as well, because the sender needs accessory power as well. So the wiring is finally all done. It took a bit longer than I wanted. It was a bit more complicated. But now that everything's wired together, when I install the other gauges, all I got to do is basically like install the senders and then plug in the gauges. Like, that's literally about it, since I've already done basically all the power, all the ground, all the remotes for all the gauges. Now, this is the moment of truth, because, well, I mean, gotta check and see if what you did worked, right? I reconnected the battery, plugged everything up. I cleaned up some of the wires a little bit. Let's see how this goes. A whole lot of nothing. So, I am certifiably dumb. That remote control wire, yeah, the internet lied. Why would I even trust the internet in the first place? But anyways, instead of checking the manual, I just went off of whatever I found online, and it was not to control the amplifier. It was to receive input from, like, steering wheel controls, for example. So, yeah, that didn't work. So I decided to just hook up the gauges to the ignition wire that goes into the radio, and hopefully this works. Okay, moment of truth. Hey, let's go! I mean, it's sideways, but, oh, finally. Boys, I'm pushing 0 pounds of boost.
All right, so the boost gauge works finally. It only took a little bit of fine-tuning the system I had created, but I'm really excited for this. It looks so good. It looks nice and crisp. The other two gauges are matching as well. They're both ProSport. That's the end of today's video. If you liked today's video, hit that like button, subscribe as well. That'd be super cool. You know, you don't have to if you don't want to, but I really appreciate it. And we've got more stuff coming. New turbo, install kit, new intercooler. Still have to figure out if it's going to be a side mount or not. I want it to be a side mount. I want it to be a side mount intercooler, so I don't block airflow to my radiator, and it's kind of a sleepy look. But if I can't find one and it's too expensive to get one fabricated, I may just go the route of a front mount intercooler, just like what everybody else does. But just like that, today's video is over. I will see you guys next week.